Everyone is welcome back to the World Percussion Group Academy. My name is Megan Campbell. I'm the Director of Operations for the World Percussion Group Academy, and today we're here with Tanel.
Hey everyone.
Would you like to quickly introduce yourself and speak a little bit about your projects, your music, where you're from, what you like to do, whatever?
Yes, of course. So, my name is Tanel Eiko Novikov. I come from Estonia, and currently I'm based in Denmark, finishing my studies there. What I mainly specialize in is the mallet instruments, also especially the marimba. And career-wise, I'm doing like many solo and chamber projects professionally, mostly in Northern Europe. So in terms of projects, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on as well. I guess this particular summer, there's a combination of like some duo projects, also some stuff with my percussion ensemble, the Estonian Percussion Quartet, playing like some new Estonian commissions that we made, and also going on a very special type of tour, which I can't quite spoil yet, but you can stay in tune to find that out, hopefully very, very soon. And then I have a small solo tour coming up in August. It's
That's exciting.
yeah,
Nice.
essentially, yeah, it's going to be like many of my own arrangements, plus also pieces that I commissioned. And it's focused on this methodology of playing called the holistic method, which, I mean, it's a long topic in itself, but the tour is centered around essentially showcasing new ways of playing the marimba from a technical and also, yeah, just oral, sonoric aspect. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now.
Very nice. Awesome. And I forgot to ask you about this before the session, but in every single one of these, I've been playing first a piece of one of the coaches so that the members and the people that watch this back can see some of your playing. Is that cool if we play one of your arrangements really quick?
Yeah, of course.
Which one would you like to play?
We can play a little bit of the Piazzolla, Invierno Porteño.
And got it. Okay, nice. Okay, let's play a little bit of your arrangement, and then we'll get into the performances. Okay, sorry, my computer just fought me for a second. I'm back. Very nice job. That arrangement is so great. I was gonna ask you to stall for me
Yeah.
while I left and came back, but it all worked
Oh,
out. Yeah,
see,
such a great
yes, sorry.
arrangement.
This is
Thank you for
my.
playing.
No, I think it was actually a very good cutting
Okay,
off point. Yeah.
that's good.
So
It's
I
always
mean,
so sad.
to what? Sorry,
This
I just
delay is
didn't
crazy. It's
catch
okay.
what you.
Sorry. Go on with all your thoughts. You're good.
Oh
Sorry, the delay is so bad.
no, I mean the arrangement of the piazzolla itself is essentially a part of a project that I'm doing, which will also be a part of this solo tour. And the idea was to take all of the four seasons of Buenos Aires, a fantastic cycle by Piazzolla, and yeah, just rearrange them for the marimba. Of course, all of us percussionists know Pius Chang's arrangement of Verano Porteño, which is summer from that same cycle. And I mean, I took some inspiration from that arrangement as well, but also like from Piazzolla's original version for this quintet, and also a very like fantastic arrangement made for the chamber orchestra, Camerata Baltica. So invierno porteño also means winter, so it's like juxtaposed. I've sometimes played my own arrangement in Pius as kind of as like a 1-2 punch, but yeah, very soon I will have the whole cycle arranged for solo marimba.
Such a cool project. Thank you. And I think we'll discuss arranging a little bit today as well. I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. Layla, are you ready to go? Nice. Hello. Good to see you again.
Hi.
Hi, Layla.
Hi.
Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself really quickly and talk a little bit about what you'll be performing today?
Yes. So my name's Lois Stewart. I'm currently a music education major at the University of Texas at Arlington. And today I will be playing Toccata by Anna Ignatovic. And it's not the entire piece, it's only a little section. I'm currently in the process of learning it, but I'd love to hear any input and insight you have on the entire piece.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, yeah, thanks a lot. So how do you usually do it? Shall we play a small section of it? I also have to say this is my first time doing this online coaching, so I might be a little bit more all over the place than I would like, but hopefully not. So yeah, as Megan wrote to me, let's play a little bit of the piece, and then we can start discussing. Very nice. Okay. So, before I give my own comments, I wanted to ask, how did you like wind up playing this piece? Or how much do you know about the composer and yeah, the music in general? But yeah, yeah, how did you wind up finding this piece?
So, I was looking for pieces to play a couple of years ago, and I came across this one, and I liked it. And I talked to my professor about playing it, and he was like, "That one is like a lot harder than it seems," and that I probably was not ready for it yet. And he was right, because I'm playing it 2 years later. So now I'm learning it for grad auditions, and it is hard. The piece I learned is in dedication to her father's passing, and that's really all I could find about the piece. There's not really any other information regarding that, or like her emotions while writing it and stuff like that. So
Okay. I mean, that's already a lot of stuff. I mean, in my opinion, this is like one of the best solo pieces written for the marimba. Uh, like from a just a compositional sense. I mean, the marimba itself is generally quite a light instrument, and it's very easy to make things sound just a little bit silly. But this piece has just so much vulnerability and like dramaticism to it, and the way she takes that topic, right? I mean, her own father's passing, and puts those emotions into the piece with the language that she uses is just almost like transcendental for the instrument, in my opinion. Like, I absolutely love this piece. Um, so, keeping that in mind, like one general thought that I had about this is that I also understand that you are still in the process of learning it, but I would focus or put a lot of attention on the delicacy of this piece, because this is, as I said, a very, very vulnerable one. So especially in the beginning, I know right now you also omitted the very beginning parts, but it starts almost like from nothing. Like I think I even oftentimes go as close to the note as possible, like change the angle of the mallet to be kind of more like this, so that just when making these strokes, you just have a slightly more limited range of motion to just start as soft as possible and to kind of keep expanding on that sound. And for me, also, like at some point I kind of called this piece a dramatic minimalism, but I think kind of like neo-baroque with elements of perhaps some uh, drama, and minimalism is more suited. So where I'm getting at is that it is a rhythmical piece, but the rhythm is kind of not the point. So even when it comes to this ostinato, well, it's very good to keep it kind of straight. Uh, at least in my own head, I think about it more as just this kind of like a texture, basically, like just these two sounds, the second clashing between each other, going perpetually, never stopping, you know. So, and that also kind of relates to a lot of other things. But going back to the topic of delicacy, when you can play pianos and pianissimos, bring them, you can afford to bring them down much more. And conversely, when you go into the loud moments, you can give much more. So that would be the first thing, and that kind of goes to the next topic that I wanted to discuss, like how to, well, create these different sounds and well, play around with weight, essentially. Like the marimba is, and percussion as an extension are some of the most unique instruments, because we can simultaneously play louder than anyone else in the orchestra, or any other instruments, but we can also play more quiet than anyone else. And that's because, yeah, even the faintest touch can already create a sound, right? And we can utilize this a lot to our advantage. As also, like on the piano, we have a limited range of colors if we are playing with the same mallets, similar to the piano. But the way we create colors and dimensionality is through dynamics. We are essentially creating, well, illusions, but very beautiful ones. So when playing loud, like I have the score with me. You have like, do you have the score with you as well?
Yes.
Okay, so like we are at like page number 5, right? These yeah, you have these big bass notes, right? You always go back to that bass sforzando. What I like to do personally is to just give a lot of weight with my own hand, not just use the wrist, but the entire motion. The thing is, you can achieve a very loud sound by just utilizing your wrist, but your entire hand, just like its, let's say, natural sound center, the dynamic that it creates, also, let's say, resonance also as an extension that it creates, it is gonna be louder just naturally. So when you have these like big moments going into that bass register, I would just go with that entire hand, like let your hand fall essentially on those bars. So that's like one thing for sure that I think could help adding this intuitive dimensionality. The other thing, and this is now has to do a little bit with phrasing and how to use like weight to phrase. And this is kind of specific to the school that I go to, like let's say the Copenhagen school, and also Theodore Milkov's approach to sound. The idea is like this. I hope I can explain it to you like this. So the way we usually do strokes is by playing, up and down, or starting from an up position going down. What it does is that it makes the starting point of the motion, like the beginning of the stick, the edge. Or if you're using the arm, this is the starting point. Okay. If you are doing something like like what a Muller technique could be considered, the upstroke or the down, what is essentially happening is that you are shifting the like center of gravity to the middle point of the stick. And that essentially means that you already have less weight to play with. And that means that the dynamics are going to be just naturally more soft. And you can utilize that to make off phrasings. Essentially, when doing this upstroke, like what I imagine is that pressing the brakes on like a motorcycle or something. And this can, for instance, be utilized in sorry, just give me one sec. There's actually a lot of places where this could be utilized. I'm just trying to find like the spot where it's okay. Actually, yeah, let's go from page 5, the second line, right? You have the E flat, G flat, and then it goes into a second. So technically speaking, you can off phrase that. So it's going to be like da, 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 da. And if you want that last to be da, da, like a little off phrasing, then you can do exactly this sort of motion. You can have a normal stroke and then a little upstroke, shifting the weight of the mallet, and suddenly there's less sound, and it's going to naturally sound phenomenal if that's what you want.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is a lot of info, but we just have so little time. Megan just told me that we have 5 minutes left.
No
So
worries.
I'm gonna Okay, I'm going to touch upon two quick things, and then there's going to be some more broad stuff that I will touch upon with others as well, so that you can then maybe relate to. So I can see that when you are playing alternating strokes, the mallets are kind of flailing around a little bit. They don't feel very, like all too controlled, especially when you're playing in seconds. Am I wrong, or how are you feeling?
It was a bit uncomfortable back then. I felt like I was trying to be like too like marching style, like too can't think of the word. Like just stroke every single one out, instead of
Yeah.
like just like rotating more
Mm-hmm.
relaxed. So I've been working on that.
Okay. Uh, that's actually very good. Like, I mean, this is like my personal bias because I'm a more of like a soft player. So I actually quite rarely play things out, like only when it kind of really needs to be played out. So what I like to do is, yeah, utilize more just kind of wrist motions, not so much fingers actually. Only when when it really needs to be articulated and kind of fast. But actually, what I wanted to talk about, and maybe my little black table will be a better way to show it. Is like what I saw is that when doing these alternating strokes, at least for me, I used to have this problem where my mallets would go around in circles, you know. And what that usually comes from, at least in my experience, is that like after the initial impact, like once the mallet hits the bar, the motion of the mallet itself going into the bar doesn't stop. So instead of going back up, you are kind of keeping the motion while also lifting the like bringing your wrist back. So instead of just going up and down, like the wrist at the same time is kind of going a little bit further than it actually needs to, and then it kind of brings, and then you kind of like try to bring it back up, and that results in a circular motion, which is just not as efficient as like down up. So all I'm saying is that if you're feeling that you're struggling with alternating strokes whenever in the future, then just take a look at like what sorts of trajectories are your mallets making. If they're making circular motions, it just could be that you're actually doing more than you need to with the rotation, which is a very good problem because oftentimes we feel like we don't do enough. So yeah, just a small little thing to keep in mind. And oh, this is like some super nerdy sticking stuff that I wrote. Like I can maybe send some of that later to you if you want, because like stickings are such like personal things. So we don't have to focus on that whatsoever. Do you have any questions?
Yes. So I've heard the two different ways of playing to where like the ostinato stays in the left hand, and so those bass notes at the beginning and stuff, you like reach over, not the very beginning, but page 5, you like reach over and you hit that low B flat. And then I've also been told to like alternate the ostinato to hit the low B flat with your left hand. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, there's pros and cons to both. I've played the way I usually play this piece is that I do like to extend my right hand to play it, because I like to keep that ostinato in the left hand. It creates a lot of, I mean, it's just easier to keep that line going. But there is one big con with it, and it's the fact that you are playing with a harder mallet and you're just not going to get as much sound out of it. Especially like this is a piece that utilizes the range of the marimba to its like fullest. So it's very difficult to actually find the good mallets for it. I'm not completely sure what mallets you are playing with, but they seem a little bit like on the harder side. Am I wrong? Or at least a little
Yes.
bit rubbery.
I'm playing with the Ludwig Alberts. So I was
Oh,
also wondering what your mallet recommendation was, because I don't think I'm too much a fan of them for this piece.
Well, I mean, what I have used so far, at least, uh, I mean, I'm a very big fan of rested J mallets. That's what I use for a lot of more like lyrical repertoire. Um, are you familiar with rested J whatsoever? Okay.
No.
Okay.
How do you spell that?
It's uh, RESTA,
Okay.
and then J as J. Oh, yeah, Megan is nothing in the private chat. Is it private only for me or private for everyone else? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Megan. Sorry
Thank you.
for all of the YouTube viewers. I'm having like a separate discussion with Megan that you don't know of.
Hi, everyone. I switched spots in my house, so I will not be ruining the session with my Wi-Fi anymore. Thank you so much, Layla. Amazing job. I love that piece so much, and you do a really good job playing it. And we
Yeah,
can talk
it's
more
really,
about mallet and sticking things later. We got to keep moving.
yeah, right. We have the question round later, right? So yeah, then
Yes.
we can keep this discussion. But really, good job. Keep working on it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Nice. Awesome. Andy, are you ready? You look very ready. I'm going to bring you on
Yeah.
stage.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's all
Yes.
working. Nice.
Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah.
Hey, Andy.
Hello. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man. So, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
Just
Good.
enjoying the hotter than average Northern European weather that I'm in.
Yeah, it's just that time of year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's a very cool nose ring you have, I have to say.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, it's I've
Yeah.
had it since 2016. It's been a while now. It's been like 8 years. Yeah.
Damn, dope.
So.
Super
Okay.
cool. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself and talk
Oh,
about where you're
yeah.
from and what you'll be playing today?
Sorry. My name is Andy. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. I currently go to Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. I study with Caleb Pickering, cool guy. And today I'm playing Etude in C sharp minor by Casey Cangelosi.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. super nice. So,
Thank you.
I have to be honest. I was actually not familiar with this Casey etude. Like,
Oh, really?
I mean, I've played a lot of his second A minor etude, and then I also really love his E minor one. And I mean, yeah, and I mean, not even talking about all of his percussion pieces; they're fantastic. And it's, I mean, it's kind of cool that you're also, working with Caleb Pickering on this stuff. So yeah, I think in that case, you kind of have maybe more of an insight into what Casey himself was thinking when writing this.
Yeah, and the thing about like 9 Note, because I didn't know about it either, right? And Caleb, like him and I talked about a competition that I did in December, and he was like, "It's a really pretty piece, and it's really lyrical, but it's still really choppy. It's just not a lot of people have played it, right?" And like I think it's a great piece. But a lot of like the insight that I guess he's given me on it is a lot of it you can just look at it as more of like a romantic piano piece in a sense, right? Because that's a lot of what it feels like. So that's kind of like my approach to it, I guess.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Like, I feel like Casey was, and this is me just completely assuming, that he was quite inspired by a lot of things when writing this particular one. Because, from the piano stuff, it almost feels like something that like Scriabin could have written, or like some of these late romantic, almost teetering on avant-garde type composers. And also like it has, as you said, like a lot of these choppy elements, like this could have also easily been like something written by Michael Burridge or even Eric Samu, right? Some of these like harmonics do remind me of Chameleon, for instance. Chameleon. So and what I did basically want to say is like, firstly, I think you have a very good idea in terms of what you want to do with the piece, and it does come through. Also, I think the mallet choice is very good. Are these Casey's mallets?
Yeah, so I use 3 Casey Blues and a Purple Pious for the bass, but I've kind of changed-ish to a bass mallet Pious, like the ones, 2 of the Pious 2s in the middle, and a medium in the top. And I mean, it still reads pretty well towards the top of the keyboard, but I mean, I haven't used like good mics yet. I'm actually going to go do that today to record this piece again with better mics with both sets of mallets to see what lines up better.
Yeah, so. I mean, from my own perspective, I think the mallet choice in this particular recording is good. Like you can feel that the weight of the mallets is kind of helping a lot with these textures. And conversely, what I think you kind of could do is to lean a little bit more into the weight that you have. Essentially, there's 3 parts for the most part in this piece, right? You have these very nice, like luscious bass notes. You have this like texturing in the middle. It also like later on is just like accompaniment. And then you have like this very simple, vulnerable melody part. And it rarely ever gets loud. So what I would recommend doing is creating a little bit more like dimension or distance between the bass and the soprano. And the way I would do it is not necessarily by making the top line louder, but actually by sort of not playing out all of these textures all too much. And also when it comes to all of these like lateral strokes, which there's a fair amount of in these textures, I have one idea, and this is a little bit of a like the way I personally play a lot of double laterals, and it's something kind of new that I've been experimenting with. So before I do that, could I ask you, like, how do you define a lateral stroke? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm genuinely curious.
Like, how do I approach something like that?
Or a double lateral stroke?
Just a regular ladder. I mean, I see I guess it just depends on like the context of like what I'm doing or the sound that I'm trying. Because for a while it was like one approach that I kind of took with this was like I treated it more like I guess a diddle in a sense, right? Where it's just like one solid movement and it was going in the same direction. But like as I got further into playing it, there were some more of the texture parts that I wanted to, I guess, articulate more. So that lateral stroke, they kind of became, I guess the approach became more of like an independent stroke for each one, even if it was on the same hand, right? So it's like, I guess there's two different ways to see it. It's just like muscling it out all the way or just flowing with it. And for this one, like I do muscle out a lot of them as opposed to flowing because it's just not as readable.
Okay, well, I will offer you a completely different way of approaching lateral strokes if you're willing to humor me.
Yeah, of course.
So I'll also just come back to my little black table. So I also, for the longest time, approached laterals as kind of like one motion, a scooping motion, essentially, right?
Yeah.
The wrist goes this way, and yeah, and then laterals can only be played when you've achieved this angle, which is true. So, but when talking about motion, like motion in essence is the stretching and relaxation of muscles, right? And like the most relaxed position that we can have is when the mallets are resting on the bars. Maybe not the most, but definitely more relaxed than lifting the mallets. So what I kind of realized a little while ago was that like what a double lateral could be interpreted as is actually just like a single independent stroke, where instead of bringing the mallet back up to its starting position, you just let the other mallet fall down to this resting position. You see what I mean? So instead of being like a scooping or a motion-based motion, it's essentially like a relaxation-based motion, just a single stroke and then a relaxation. And then depending on how fast you relax the muscles, you get the speed. And that also actually means, which is a pretty cool thing, I will digress just for momentarily, is that all you really need is this angle, which means that you don't need to actually start double laterals from an angle like this. You can start a double lateral like this as well, as long as this mallet reaches the bar first. So I think we all have these struggles, like how to bring out the mallet that starts like in these laterals, you know? It's quite difficult. But if you start from this motion, do your single stroke, and then let the other mallet just fall, you can get...
Okay.
You know, like you have a huge range of motion. So where I'm going with this is that to play these textures, like I think muscling out can be good, or using fingers in maybe the higher register, if also when you're playing fast. But if I would be playing this, I would at first try more like this relaxation-based stuff, because this is more about creating a vibe, you know, like in Chopin, like, you know, you have all of these polyrhythms. I mean, they're very rarely played rhythmically. It's more about having a direction and landing on the bass and whatnot, right? It's kind of the bass that gives the pulse, not the rhythms themselves. So all I'm saying is that I would experiment more with kind of playing more loose with these textures, because that also gives you the option to play it out more when you're using when you're in the bass or when you're in the top line, and suddenly you have just 3 different dimensions that are very clearly defined. And by muscling it out more in certain spaces, you can bridge the gap between these dimensions if you so wish.
Okay.
So that would be like one thing. The other thing would be that, and I mean, this is a question of taste, but I would give those bass notes a little bit more time to ring, since you do have that option. And this kind of ties to my personal philosophy of, let's say, arpeggios or general sound making, or like one of the principles. This comes from my teacher, Johann Berger. So the idea is that when well, on the marimba, there's two sources of sound production, right? There's the bar, which in itself is, ringing, quite long, but it's also quite overtone heavy. So to bring out the resonance and the fundamental, we have the resonators. And the way these resonators generally work is that it kind of creates a wind vortex, from what I've understood. You hit the bar, the wind goes down, and then it comes all the way back up. So when you're playing any of the bars, it always sounds like whoa. You always have that little after wave. On the one hand, it can be treated as like a deficiency of sorts, but when playing the bass notes, you can utilize this wave to your advantage when playing arpeggios. So unfortunately, I don't have my instrument with me, so I can't show it to you. But after the initial attack, while that resonance is building up, you can also utilize dynamics on the other notes to sort of go along with that wave. And it creates a very natural and very nice sounding arpeggio or texture, So here, I think you can definitely use this to your advantage if you so wish. Just playing these bass notes and just listening out to what the bar can provide you, and then just going up, boom, bum, bum, da, 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 dum, da, da, dum, or whatever the bar can provide you. I think you can utilize that a little bit more, and it will make the phrasing much more natural.
Okay.
So, there's essentially, also this sort of idea of, not playing things out too much. I think you could do later on as well. Let me just find the spot that I'm thinking of. Well, essentially a lot of these chordal places, like you have, for instance, page 6, the third line of page 6, where
yes,
if you have just these sextuplets and 16th notes sort of as polyrhythms, but I would just kind of maybe play the very first note or give us like slight tenuto or more weight to the first note, and then really not try to play out that left hand whatsoever. Just give an initial impulse, and then give more like direction, and just use your left hand and the resonance that you're creating with that interval as a pillow for the right hand, and not really as like some rhythmical interlocking. I mean, maybe Casey had a different idea in mind, but I think with the mood of the piece, it will work quite well. So I would say, I would play out only the parts that really kind of should be, like the soprano and the bass. But this is very much also a taste thing. So yeah. And truthfully, this is all that I had to say. Like, you play great. You have a good handle on the piece.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, just keep going, and keep playing with these nice mallets, man. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Okay.
Great job, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
You should stick around for the arrangement questions at the end. Okay, awesome. Next we have Dane. Are you ready to go?
Hey.
Hello. Okay, we might be having some Wi-Fi difficulties.
That's actually a blessing in disguise, because my AirPods died out, so maybe I'll just go and charge them while Dane reconnects.
Dane, hello. Okay, I'm gonna take a brief intermission. See if this is working a bit better. Okay. If this is not working in 1 minute, I will go ahead and play the video. And Donna, can you hear me? If you can, message in the chat really quick and just let me know that you can hear. And if it's okay with you, I will go ahead and start with your performance while you leave and rejoin really quick. Or Derek, are you ready? Hi, Derek. Okay, let me message Donna really quick. Are you okay to go ahead and do your performance? I can hear you now. You're all good, buddy.
Wait, you can hear me?
Can you hear me? I can hear
Yeah.
you. Okay, we're going to switch up the order because there are some technical problems. Derek, hello. Would you like to introduce yourself and talk about
Hi.
your piece?
Yeah, my name's Derek. I just graduated with my master's degree in percussion performance at the University of Oklahoma. I'm from Oklahoma, and the piece I'm playing is Furioso Tango by Claudio Santaneva.
Okay, super cool. Yeah, let's just get right into it.
Cool.
Also, hi. I forgot to say hi.
Oh, it's okay. Hi.
Yeah, super nice, super nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Like, firstly, like I can see that, like technically speaking, you don't really have basically any problems. You're just like rocking out, and like I can see that you're having a ton of fun when playing. Also, like you're adding some little elements here and there, right? Some like small glissandos, or in the beginning, I think you're doing like these half dampenings with the right hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that. Those are like super nice touches, and yeah, like you can see that you enjoy this piece, which is also great because this is like a bit of a, you could say like a character, almost like a show-offy piece with a lot of character and a lot of fun. So the more you do those sorts of things, the more the audience will love it. You know, it's like the perfect encore piece, maybe. So. I had a couple of ideas, and I guess maybe the like first kind of general thing, and maybe the only truly general thing that I thought about was that since there is a lot of like variety in this piece, a lot of like sudden things, a lot of dynamic range, but also a lot of repeating material. Um, it could be nice to perhaps think a little bit more about larger phrases. Like right now, the way you're playing, it is already very dynamic, like as you said, very like angular, a lot of fun stuff happening. But for instance, in the beginning, I would just think that like maybe you don't have to give everything away from the get-go. Like the beginning is in mezzo forte, and then going into mezzo piano. And it's all very nice, but for instance, the sforzandos that you play, they are almost like forte fortissimo sforzandos, you know? So what I would do is that I would play them in context to that mezzo forte, like they like still like make them angular, maybe play them slightly closer to the node so that they have this directness, but not necessarily this loudness, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Also, those sforzandos in the left hand that you have in the beginning, they have a tendency to be a bit louder than the melody itself. And the melody is very simple. So I wouldn't want you to play it like super loud, especially not in the beginning. So I would personally tone it down a little bit in the accompaniment accent department.
Okay.
And also, yeah, as I said, kind of keeping it more mezzo forte, like no need to go like too loud or even, yeah, no need to just go too loud. Like uh, since this material is repeating so much, there are some sections where like it's in a mezzo piano, then some spots where it is like much louder. Just lean more into the general dynamics and then play around those dimensions. I like to use the word dimensions quite a lot, but like my own, I wouldn't want to say problem, but one thing that I kind of used to do when I was in my first youth was that I would play a little bit eclectically, perhaps. That I would find like these bits that I really enjoy, and then really give my like entire musical expression into every single little phrase that I find interesting. But what it kind of does as a result is that it takes away from the just larger picture. Like, what is it that you're trying to say with the piece? Is it just a bunch of very engaging small bits or collages, or is there just a larger thing that you want to say? So maybe it also doesn't 100% apply to like this particular piece because it is kind of eclectic in its nature. But all I'm saying is that if you haven't already, just think about take like a step or two back and think about the larger direction of the piece, where the culmination of the piece is. or where the multiple coordinations and cadences are.
Okay.
So another thing, what was I thinking of? Oh, this is kind of a small thing. Also, a thing with in regards to personal taste, but I'm a huge fan of glissandos on marimbas because I think they can add a lot of character. I mean, sometimes they can kind of be goofy if they're overdone, and I'm not saying that you overdid it. I thought they were very like tastefully used, but I have a couple of things that I like to do with glissandos to just add variety. Um, so right now, and maybe this is not how you intended it to be, but this is how at least I perceive it. The glissandos are quite even. Like they have a clear starting point, and then they go in this like even speed to the next spot. So what I like to do oftentimes is to also, for instance, do like what I call a power glissando. Like you start and you kind of almost press the mallets into the bar and just go like, boom, something like this. So you have like a very strong start, and also a very strong like direction going down, and then you can slow it down. So it's like, almost like how a bandeon, like the instrument that Piazzolla used to play. When he would like play a verano, it would be da 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 da. Would have this very strong beginning point, and we can emulate that to an extent. Starting out powerfully pressed in and fast, and then kind of slowing down as you go down. So that's like a little power glissando. But you can turn that around as well. Start kind of soft, and then press down and get faster as you go down, into the bass. And I think that you could utilize in some spots. One idea, what did I think about? I can't remember. Oh, for instance, bar 64, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah, if this is what I was thinking of, let me just double check so I don't tell you wrong. Yeah, I think this is the spot. So this is a pretty long glissando, right? And it's preceded by, well, a relatively large amount of stuff happening. I mean, it's fast, it's cool, and then suddenly it gets quite tame, which is fine if you're going for the sudden moment of, oh, what is happening. But what I would do there is to just go like da da da, da da da, like really move into those bass notes, so that then the glissando kind of joins together with the entire phrase and the larger direction, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And there are just some small spots here and there, and especially whenever you have these glissandos, just play around with the speed and intensity that you do those glissandos with. I think you'll find a lot of. I think you'll find that it will add a lot of character to like these small spots, and also essentially there was another small thing. It has to do with some passages like bar 32, where you're suddenly going into these like 16th notes, which you do play very, very well. It's like timing wise and note wise, there's nothing to say. What I was thinking, however, is that if you listen to what me and Andy talked about, that instead of kind of playing it quite evenly, you could, again, just like maybe listen to that first note and see what sort of resonance it provides to you. To maybe just, start the other notes slightly later, just like these micro phrasings that also align with, or micro timing, sorry, that's what I wanted to say. Utilize a little bit of micro timing alongside the resonance of the instrument itself. That also then becomes like a small micro phrase. So instead of it's like these very, very small things. But I think again, they could add a little bit of dimensionality, my favorite word tonight. Also, if you can, I would treat the fourth beat of that bar again as kind of the melody. So you have from the preceding bar, no da da dum, da da dum, right? So I would bring that fourth beat or the 16th notes in the fourth beat out more so that we can clearly hear that it is connected to the melody line. And then suddenly you have these two very distinct layers, or even three. Essentially, you have the little bass with its own thing going on. You have these 16th notes that create like a virtuosic passage, and then you have the melody, which is doing its own thing. Yeah. And whenever you have these 16th notes, I would advise just thinking a little bit about those things. Because, yeah, technically you're not struggling whatsoever. At least it doesn't seem like it. And, okay, actually one super small thing, and you are free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. It has to do with when you start having the octavated tremolos from like bar 101, I think it is.
Okay.
So I think there, at least from the recording, it seemed like there might have been like some slight difficulties, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, there's a little bit going on. I think it's mostly whenever I switch to the octave, sometimes I feel like I blame it on my technique.
Sorry, I think we, could you go again, please?
Yeah. What I was saying was, I think there's a little bit of a problem. It's whenever I switch to the octave, I guess it's where I place it in my hands. Sometimes just doesn't feel comfortable. So then I kind of start to struggle, and the sound kind of gets takes the fall for it.
Okay. Do you struggle in the sense of like getting it into the octave position, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at least in context it is, because whenever I do it just by itself, there's no notes. I can do it, but as soon as I put the notes in, it's kind of like something changes in my hands.
I see. Well, yeah, if we would maybe be like in a live setting, then we could maybe just have a more hands-on, we could take a better look. What I would say, there's just like two ideas. It doesn't have that much to do with like the positioning, but just to think about these things. So what at least I felt like when you played, one of the things was that you kind of you're playing very controlled. That while the motions themselves are correct, like you're really making the mallets go down, you know.
Okay.
So there's a little thing that I kind of like to think about, and it's that whenever you're having technical difficulties with a certain technique or whatnot, or a passage, take a look at what the mallet that isn't playing is doing. So in this particular instance with the tremolos, it's actually super easy to see. Like, I mean, one mallet is going down, and that's the one that we tend to focus on. But what about the mallet that is, going up and in a way pushing the other mallet down, right? So the thing that could help is to just take a look at the mallet that is being lifted up and not really doing anything. That's like a general philosophy that I have when practicing technique. And then another thing, which I kind of was telling Andy about lateral strokes, was that again, like when we are in a resting position, like even when playing like a single independent stroke, essentially what we have to do, or the bare minimum that we have to do, is just kind of relax the hand and let the mallet fall, right? So maybe instead of thinking of it as like a motion where you're really having to do a lot of work, just think about it kind of as like relaxing different parts of your hand, I mean, you can experiment around with that. And then this is a minor thing, but I noticed it also, which maybe affected like some small inaccuracies, or, well, not even inaccuracies, like let's say like one slight wrong note in a tremolo. It's that at some spots, when going to the bass with the left hand, you start making adjustments with your body. I can relate to that because, well, I do it and basically everyone does it. But this is something that I kind of we do here in Copenhagen a lot, and I think this comes from Gordon Stout actually, is that that basically the idea is that we move our body way much more than we actually need to, and I'm quite sure that it's enough for you to actually just stretch your left hand while keeping your body in the same position and just hit those bass notes. And the way you can try it out is that when you have this passage, or truthfully any passage, you figure out what the highest and lowest notes are. And the highest notes, you do a dead stroke with your right hand, and on the lowest notes, you do a dead stroke with your left hand. And then see whether you can make it or how you should adjust your torso to be able to do it. And then you will find your center. Basically, and I'm going to finish with this, I think, we have a tendency of trying to always adjust ourselves to the best possible position, which is great, but on the instrument that we are playing on, that might equal a lot of movement, and our hands have to compensate, and that's why it's so hard to hit those damn notes. So, well, what I would say is that, just figure out where your body is centered in these different passages, and rather than adjusting your body to be in the best possible position, see if you can stretch your hands to reach that spot. So maybe if you're starting a low section, it's not quite as comfortable in the beginning, but as you go along to like a higher place, it's gonna become, well, much easier, instead of moving to the slow part and then kind of moving along as you play. What it also does is that it actually kind of creates a frame of reference for your body itself. I'm sure there's a more technical term for this, but as Stevens kind of himself said, that it's enough to kind of make small movements with the body already, and your hand and your muscle memory just doesn't hit the right stuff. But if you actually kind of ground yourself and try to move as little as possible, your hands will learn those motions eventually. They will get used to starting from a slightly uncomfortable position. But at least in my experience, you start hitting correct notes way more consistently. So just take a look with that tremolo, and I'm sure you don't have to move your body whatsoever to hit those notes, and then suddenly you will realize that the tremolo will be like super clean, and hopefully with the other tips, maybe it's going to be a little bit easier to play as well. But generally, really fantastic played, man. Congrats.
Cool. Thank you.
Great job, Derek. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
much fun to listen to. Such a great recording. All of your videos are so fun. Derek's backstage. He can't respond. That's okay. Okay, next up, Donnie, let's see if this works this time. Hello. Yes,
Hey.
let's go. Okay. Hi. Okay. Would you like to introduce yourself super quickly? Talk about
Yes,
where you're
of
from,
course.
what you'll be playing.
So hello, Tanel. It's really nice to meet you. I'm Dane. I'm from Croatia, Zagreb. My teachers are Igor Lešnik and Ivana Bilic. And today for you, I'm going to. Sorry. Okay, I made a contraption for my phone, so yeah, I hope it will stay now. I'm finishing. I just finished my second year at the academy in Zagreb, which I enrolled earlier, so I'm 19. And today I will play for you Etude in E minor by Pius Cheng, which I'm sure you know pretty well. So we can go on, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get right into it. That's
Thank
also
you.
another word that I use a lot tonight. Yeah, super nice, super nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Firstly, yeah, just like very, very well played. Like it's expressive. I can see that, like technically speaking, you don't have any like issues. You're playing very powerfully, and you've put a lot of thought into how you want to play this piece. So maybe before I go into the comments, into my comments, could you give a little bit of context in terms of how you see the piece? How did you also wind up playing it?
So at my academy, it's required every year for marimba to play one cello suite. And I was, of course, very curious, and I always saw videos of people playing crazy marimba pieces, and that kind of wasn't enough for me. and I was like, I need another piece. And I was thinking about which piece, and I stumbled upon this piece, and I was like, oh yeah, 3 minutes, yeah, it's no problem, it's super easy, yeah, no, nothing, it's okay. And then I started doing it, and it took those 3 4 minutes were much more work than I ever thought that they would be. But that's why I kind of now have a special connection with this piece, because it really taught me a lot. And we went this piece, and I went really on a special journey, and I really liked it because it taught me a lot of things I needed to be taught. And yeah, I just chose it on a whim, and I really like playing it now. I have been playing it for around a year. Yeah, about a year. Yeah, so for quite some time now. Yes.
Hmm. I can for sure hear that you've played it for a while.
Yeah.
And also, and I mean this in the best way, that you also, I think, picked it up at the right time. And this might
Yeah.
sound like a peculiar comment, but I can actually relate quite a lot to how you started playing it. I can maybe talk about this later, but I learned this piece when I was definitely too young to learn it. And as a result, I've tried to get rid of a lot of bad habits for years, and I've just never gotten rid of them. So unfortunately, don't program it in my concerts all that much anymore, which is a shame because I think it's, again, like one of the best pieces written for the marimba.
Yes.
You know. So in any
Yeah.
case, I'm very glad that you went on this journey, and I can see that, yeah, you just keep going with this, and it's going to be just brilliant, you know, because it is already great, really.
Thank you.
So this stuff that I was thinking about talking, there's a couple of like small technical things, not from the sense of making it like easier, but from like a phrasing or a
Mhm.
voicing sense. So let's start about that, because everything else that I have to tell you is just my very personal approach to playing this
Yeah.
piece.
Okay.
This has to do again with kind of where I come from. The idea is that when you're playing chords, like the way we're usually taught is that you play double vertical strokes, right? That you bring the mallets up and you bring them down, and then you have your chord. Cool.
Yeah.
However, we're never, at least not in a traditional sense, we're not really taught how to voice, like how to bring out that top mallet, how to bring out the lower mallet if you need. So there's a little technique that we in Copenhagen use, and it's essentially a combination stroke between double vertical and single independent. So instead of maybe the table will be a little bit a better thing to show. So instead of just going up and down, what you can do is that imagine yourself playing a single
Mhm.
stroke, but at the moment of contact, both of the mallets go down, right? So
Yeah.
suddenly you gain like this wide range of motion in one of the mallets, and it works both ways. Unfortunately, it would be so much better to show it on the instrument, because then you hear a very clear difference.
Yeah.
But for instance, in the beginning, where is the score? I have the score here. So for instance, bar 3, you know, when you have the no da da
Uh-huh.
da, like the top line is the melody, as kind of indicated in the
Yeah.
score, and what you already do bring it out very well. But maybe what could add, like help make it even easier, is to actually do this little thing, this little
Yeah.
rotation motion. And if you try this out, you will hear that there's such like a new dimension with dynamics that you can do. Um,
Mhm.
and truthfully, a lot of players actually intuitively do this stuff. But at least where I came from, I was never conscious of this. So
Yeah.
conversely, what you can do, and this already goes more into personal taste, but let's get into that. So page 2.
Okay.
The second line, second bar. You know, you
Okay.
have this like these octaves in the right hand, right, that you're playing. What I personally like to do is once again to actually kind of minimize the top part, because if you play out the top part, it just sounds like bum 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 bum, like these kind of weird notes.
Okay.
Probably Pius was aiming at was to create more of a larger feel to the passage, because it's a logical progression from what was happening on the last page. So what I do is that you know, if this is my outer mallet, I actually bring out the inner mallet a little bit more, so that the main focus is still on the melody line. That's harp or Chopin-esque little line that's going up and down. So putting more focus on that and making those top notes kind of just something that adds volume.
Okay, more blend in.
Yes, I would blend them in more.
Yeah, okay.
And that kind of brings me to another thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to all of these little fast lines. Like what I can hear is that I mean, yeah, the one we talked about right now, or page 1, bar 4, all of these fast passages. I mean, I can see that the way you play, it's very rhythmical and it's also very powerful. But what I would kind of keep in mind is that this is perhaps like the most Chopin-esque piece that Pius has written, and the way that at least kind of Chopin utilizes these sorts of textures is, once again, as I mentioned before, to give more a sense of direction and harmony, not so much rhythm. So what I would do is to actually play it out less, and instead of kind of playing it very rhythmically, just give yourself a little bit of time. Again, listen to what the bass bars can provide you, and maybe, yeah, just do some micro phrasings a little bit more. What that will also do is that it will create more layers. Suddenly your bass is very well understood, the melody line is clear as day, and you have all of this like awesome stuff happening in the middle, which is already very well phrased. I wouldn't change anything there. In fact, I might borrow some of your phrasings. And also, yeah, basically just a small idea to keep in mind. Then, as we go along, what did I want to talk about? I made some notes, but I have way too many tabs open on my computer.
That's okay.
Yes. So, what I wanted to say is, yeah, speaking of these like layers, another thing that I would put a little bit more attention to is the bass. In general, it's good, but when you're having these 16th note passages, I can hear that the bass, like following those 16th notes lines, it isn't quite as clear. I don't think I wrote out like a particular.
But I understand. I sometimes give it less attention and just maybe swipe through it, which isn't necessarily the best option.
Yeah, just also from the sense that usually the bass starts on the very first beat of the bar. So that's a very good indicator of where we are rhythmically and structurally, right? So just give a little bit more attention to the bass.
Okay.
Also, the bass will help phrase a lot more naturally. Like generally, when I'm struggling with phrasings, I go back to the bass and the sort of larger line that it is creating, because the bass is the foundation of the harmony, essentially. And you know, what I kind of like to say is that, you know, the soprano is the diva. Everyone will hear what you're doing in the top voice, but the bass is what holds it together, rhythmically, harmonically, and also in terms of the larger progression. So think about how you want to phrase the bass. And suddenly, in the large scheme, everything will click even more.
Okay.
Then also, okay, so this has to do with page 3, line 2, when we reach the B section of the piece.
Okay.
What I would do there personally is that I would go for a much lighter sound. Like this is the spot where you can really switch out the color. And I think this could really play to your advantage because the way you are playing the A part is already so like powerful and expressive. I play it very differently, but I would not. Oh, hey, Jeremy. I play it much softer than you do, but I like the way you do. As I already said, it makes sense. Keep that. But in the B section, if you really take it down, firstly dynamically, it will just bring a very, very nice contrast to the whole thing. And
Okay.
the way that I would sort of, at least the way that I personally would conceptualize this is not just about creating like or playing in softer dynamics, but also bringing out a different color and a different atmosphere. And the way I would do it in your instance is that I would just go a little bit less into the bar. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you are playing, you are really going into it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not in the sense that you're, keeping the mallet on the bar, but you let the bar hit, or you let the mallet hit the bar as much as possible. So as I kind of mentioned before, the beauty of percussion instruments is the dynamic range and the way that we can actually just touch an instrument and it already creates sound. Graze a bar and you have something. So in terms of the touch or the strokes that you make, instead of kind of going in, I would experiment around with actually just doing these kind of touch strokes. I guess some people would call them taps. If you want to go further, you can call them kind of like a lift or French strokes. I wouldn't go for the lift. I would just go for the fact that you can afford to just touch the instrument. And you can even afford to keep the mallet on the bar a little bit, like these half dampenings, but very, very slightly. What it does is that it actually removes some overtones. So suddenly it's a more fundamental heavy sound. The difference is not very large, but if you do it consistently, and also with the contrast that you have before, you just gain a new dimension. So I would go for, like just trying to touch the bars that you play in that section. And if you can afford it, keep the mallet on the bar just a little bit. Experiment around with that, and you will gain a new color. What that also means is that when you play the melody, you can play it the same way that you have with that power. So again, a lot of layers to what you do. And as it goes along, we don't have a lot of time, but let me just take a look at the score. Yeah, as that B section goes along, it gets more powerful, and it kind of goes back to the original material. So you can go from these like touch strokes back to the way you usually play, going in and balancing. So yeah, bridging the gap, connecting the dots. Also, yeah, I mean, this is again like a very small thing, but where does it? Oh, yes, I wanted to ask you actually about bar 4. What is this? The second line, second bar. You use these like dampenings, right?
Yeah.
So what's the idea behind those dampenings?
I don't know. It just came to me one time I was playing and I tried it out and I liked it because it gave like a bigger build-up contrast and yeah, that's it.
Okay. I mean, it's cool, and it also gives a little unique touch. What I think you could experiment with is to, instead of like doing these full-on dampenings where it's up, up, experiment with the intensity of the dampening itself, like how hard you make the mallets go into the bars. Because as I mentioned before, you can create half dampenings. So it's still dampened sound, but you get that resonance or the ring from the bar. Because right now it goes from one very specific type to sound, very specific type of sound, suddenly to a completely different sound. Try to see if there's a way to connect those sounds a little bit more. You know, it can start from like these very, very strong or intense dampenings, and then you kind of let go of the tension as you go along with those dampenings until you're not dampening anymore. Just experiment around with that if you want to.
Okay.
And actually, besides that, yeah. Actually, yeah, one other general thing. I think you can afford to let loose with the piece. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a hunch that you might be a little bit careful when playing this right now.
Well, I was, especially for this, because it was like it was the first time for me doing a recording where I first did audio recording, then video recording, and the general, like how do I say, general situations in which I had to record were like pretty fun. So it was like a total experience where I maybe didn't have enough space to focus on the musical part, which is a shame, but it was definitely an experience worthwhile, and I learned a lot. So yeah, I agree. I need to let sorry again. I need to let loose with this piece totally, and that's why I'm very excited, because this summer, starting in a few weeks, I also have like a solo tour. I have 12 concerts all along the Dalmatian coast in Croatia. So yeah, I have a few pieces like this that I just want to play and see what can I do with them and where can they lead me.
Super nice. Yeah. I mean, concert experience is the best way to just know what you want to do. So cool. Yeah, just keep doing it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome job. Thanks so much. Amazing playing. I think your video is so great. And so I'm sure you'll do a great job once
Thank
you
you.
said it was at 2 a.m. or something, right? When you were filming?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were recording at from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. because we were recording in my room because on the main road right outside my room, trams go by. So when it's day, you can't really record. So that was pretty fun. But yes, an experience definitely.
Okay.
Well, amazing job, especially given the circumstances. Thanks for playing again today.
Yeah.
All right, we've got one more.
Timothy Palmer in the flesh. Or I guess in the virtual. So what are you going to play today, Tim?
Tim, we can't hear you. Tim.
We can't.
Try now.
There it is.
Schoolboy error. My mic's on mute. What am I going to start with? I thought I would start with the Paganini variations, if that's okay with you, Tanel.
Of course.
I've arranged it for one player. So.
Oh. Just lay it on me.
Anyway, good to see you. Thank you. I'm not going to hold you up too long because I know you're tight for time, but I just wanted to show my face and say, on behalf of WPG, thank you so much for doing tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I mean, thanks for inviting me. This has been a great experience. Really.
No, you're more than welcome, and anytime you're very welcome. So I will watch this video back later. But do we have one more, Megan? Is that right?
One more, yes.
Okay, I'm going to get out of the way then. So, ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you. All right, Jake, you look super ready. Also, hi, Jake.
Hello.
Hello.
For this piece, also, are you okay if we play maybe just a section of it, as it is?
Yeah, that's fine.
It is rather long. Okay. I like the beginning. If that's cool with you, Tanel, we
Yeah.
can start at the beginning.
Cool with me.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Please introduce yourself and talk about what you'll be playing today. Thanks.
Hello. No, yeah. Hello. My name is Jake. I'm going to be going to Eastman for my master's this fall, and I'm playing Burritt Variations today.
Okay. Super nice. Okay. Yeah, just great job. I'll be completely honest with you. Before the stream started, I asked Megan for you to be the last one because I don't have all that much to say. Like, I think this is just an excellent performance.
Thank you.
Firstly, like I already saw the score you sent me, and I can see you've put
Yeah.
like a ton of yeah. Like you have thought about everything that you're doing in this piece, and I can hear that from the way you bring out all of the voices, all of the lead accompanying melodies and the rhythms. I mean, like Vignao is so focused on these rhythms, and like in a manner of speaking, Vignao is a bit of like a dry composer, not in the sense that the music is dry, but in the sense that the way the melodies and the accompaniments are kind of interlined can be bare and it is very focused on that same rhythm. So if you haven't put a lot of thought into how you want to execute it and what the grand scheme is, then it can come off maybe not as engaging as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
All that said, you do a fantastic job. The sound is great. The phrasings are like fantastic. Yeah. Honestly, the only thing that I wrote down in my comments is that I think you could let loose a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are playing, and maybe fittingly so, in a very academic way. You're doing what you do it great. But I can also see that you're kind of smiling while you're playing because I can see that you're enjoying what you do. So I think you can just loosen up in your body a little bit and also convey with your entire being that, yeah, I love this stuff, you know?
Definitely one of the main things that I've kind of been told is centered around that, like my posture mainly. kind of throughout my time, I've been told to have um, the board lower than it probably should be. And in that video, I think it was too low too. So since I've like raised it up and I've been able to kind of allow my upper body to feel more relaxed rather than like hunching over, which is kind of what I did in that video, which I think kind of goes along with your point of like being able to loosen up and relax more with it. So yeah, I think that's like definitely a thing that me and other people have noticed, and I think that that's a really good thing to hear. So yeah.
Yeah, and what I would say, and probably the pretentious upstroke Instagram account would disagree with me, but if you feel like just going even more with like your hands and such, you can also do that. Not in the sense of being fake, but at least for me, it feels like you want to go more. Like be just a little bit less academic, or be a little bit more Svet Stoyanov.
No,
Yeah. So I would totally go more into that.
Okay.
And the other thing, and it kind of has to do with what I told Derek. It's about the body movement and the body centering. So what I can see that you do a lot is that you like scooch around or slide around with your legs to be kind of centered around the passages that you're playing. And you're doing it very smoothly, but I think you can afford to, again, just take a look at what are the lower notes or the lowest note in a given passage, what is the highest one, and if you can maybe just center your body in a way that you don't have to move it so much and just let the hands do the work. What that will do is that it will also just loosen up your entire body. Instead of putting active thought into keeping the center, you will be centered. The range of motion will be larger, but you will also, I think, start playing in a more intuitive way.
So like bending like the knees, you mean?
No, not bending. No. What I meant is more so that right now, when you are moving up a passage or down, you are sliding your feet so that your body, like if you look at how I am, like this is you playing, and then your body is just moving along, like this constantly, which obviously works for you, and you don't have to change it. However, if your hands are playing and your body is moving like this, what I usually try to do is to figure out what is the highest note in a given section, what is the lowest note. Make dead strokes so you know for sure, and then center your body, or so that you're kind of in between the lowest and highest note, and see if you can kind of just let your hands do the work, with minimal body movement.
Okay.
And yeah, it could be that the beginning of a section or the end of a section becomes a little bit more uncomfortable than you're used to, but it's just that you're putting less thought into moving, and we have, as people, and this kind of nerdy talk, but we have a very limited active brain space. Like there's only so much that we can actively think about before we reach a point of overload. If at any point, like I've had this a couple of times where I'm playing something and it's so overwhelming that I just think I want to give up. I would much rather just stop playing right now. And I don't stop, but that's what I'm feeling. And that's an actual psychological phenomenon, and it's called mental overload. So one of the ways that we can minimize that mental overload is, for instance, by centering our bodies and not thinking about always being positioned in a specific way. That being said, I think this is something that could help you loosen up a little bit. Usually I do it to kind of improve note accuracy, but from what I'm seeing is that you're not struggling with that. So yeah, the only thing is just let loose. And it's going to be even better than it already is, which is already fantastic.
Great.
So, yeah.
Awesome job, Jake. Thank you. I am going to leave you on stage. And Andy, hello. And I'll bring Tim on as well for some questions. Yay. Andy, I know you mentioned you had a couple questions. I don't know if anyone else does. We've got the rest of the session to just discuss anything that we haven't talked about yet today.
Okay, I had questions like about arranging and kind of how you go about that. I guess first would be like, how do you, like you specifically, right? How do you choose rep that you want to put there that you know would sound good in any sort of, I guess, percussion sense, or even outside of percussion arrangements? And like, what's your approach to figuring that out? Also, instrumentation. I know it's kind of like loaded, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a very good question. It's a very like poignant one because I think we all deal with it. Firstly, I think arrangements are almost a necessary thing to do for us because it's a way for us to explore the boundaries of our instruments and our interpretation, for that matter. I know that there are some people who would rather do less arrangements and get composers to commission pieces, which is also very important. However, if like what I personally do is that I make these transcriptions, adaptations, also arrangements, and use those to inspire composers. Like, because if it's between like you or them knowing your instrument better, it's going to be us. And also we need to take into account that sure, a lot of the greatest composers of the past centuries were masters of their own instruments. But we live in a different era. Firstly, like being a composer has become much more of a specialized profession. I mean, it is a profession. And also us as instrumentalists have become much more specialized. Like the amount of repertoire we play and also the complexity of said repertoire is just larger. And while I think we should all create more, it's also understandable why our culture goes more into there being specific professions. That being said, we are also at a position where we can't afford for like a genius to just pop up and start writing the greatest music of the 21st century, coincidentally on the marimba or the percussion instruments. Like we have to actively explore our instruments and find the best composers that we can and show them the language that we have developed and see what they can do with that language. So that's maybe a bit of a digression, but that's the reason why I believe that arrangements are incredibly important in our field. When I make arrangements, I tend to kind of separate them into like 2 or 3 categories. I would say arrangements, transcriptions, and adaptations or adaptions. An adaptation is essentially taking, in my eyes, it's taking the original material and playing it as authentically as possible on your instrument. So for instance, I have made a lot of adaptations of Beethoven's piano sonatas. And the explicit goal of those adaptations has been to keep the material intact. Transcription is very similar in essence, but I think there is more active writing that goes into it. You're actually writing down the way you want it to be played. But when talking about arrangements, in my opinion, it is a more essential thing. What is the essence of the piece? What does this piece make me feel? And how does the composer utilize their musical language to make me feel the way that it does? And in that sense, arrangements can be the most liberating. Because, like for instance, when I made the Piazzolla, I was very inspired by a lot of different things, and Piazzolla's original version and also that chamber orchestra version. But while I tried to emulate some of the textures and the musical language because it worked on the marimba, there was also a lot of stuff that I changed because, like, obviously you cannot emulate a quintet with just 4 mallets, less so an orchestra. That being said, like it is a question of like, again, how does this music make you feel, and how can you convey that feeling on your own instrument? And that opens you up to basically doing whatever you feel like. Like I think Erik Samu is a pretty good example of a person that takes the tunes that he likes, and then he just does his own thing on it. It oftentimes winds up being quite similar, but that's his style, you know. And also, once you kind of have figured out the essence of the piece, you can decide what you want to do with it. Do you want to replicate it as authentically as possible from like a rhythmical, harmonic, and melodic standpoint, or do you want to subvert it? Or is it something in between? Like oftentimes it winds up being something in between. With the Piazzolla, for instance, I also composed or like added some melodical sections, like a small chorale, which is only, well, it was essentially me taking kind of the theme and working around it just a little bit. We didn't hear it in the stream right now, but the point is I added something completely my own because I have a very personal connection to this piece. And I felt like it was like this most vulnerable moment in the piece, and I wanted to add something that is completely me. Like I also listened to your Libertango arrangement, and what I kind of could see is that you did try to emulate the original quite a lot, or at least the double piano version, I think it was.
Yeah, it was written for 2 pianos, or arranged for 2 pianos.
Yeah. So the reason why I opted to go with the Cangelosi instead was because it's difficult to understand an arrangement in like a MIDI setting, like in a live one. You get a better sense of the essence, I guess. I've used that word so many times right now. So that's kind of my approach to making arrangements, and I don't worry too much about what pieces I decide to arrange, because as long as I understand how they make me feel, and I think that I can convey it in the language of my own instrument, it's going to be fine.
Okay, for sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of going along with that, like, if you do make an arrangement, how do you kind of make it so that people can play it? I mean, like, that's like, you know, I think a really hard thing of as to like why I haven't explored it as much. Like, I've like done some on my own, but if I just make it and then like no one can play it, then it's hard for me to kind of gauge like where I should go from there and like what I can do to like improve the next time, if that makes sense. So it just has always seemed like kind of difficult when someone won't play it.
Well, I think it depends a lot on the context of what are you making the arrangement for, and who are you making the arrangement for. The way I make my arrangements oftentimes, especially for solo, is that I don't really care. I mean, it maybe sounds a little bit blunt, but like I make the sort of arrangement that I believe in, and if other people want to play it, then well, they're just gonna have to push themselves a little bit. And I mean, we all encounter that, right? I mean, whenever we've played Pius's music, or when you played Vignau, like I'm sure Vignau didn't care about whether it was easy or not. He just wrote, and then you kind of figure it out. John Sat he has the same philosophy. Also, well, yeah, many composers do. So I think don't worry about it too much. If you can afford not to worry. We played these Paganini variations that Tim mentioned a little bit earlier, And my goal was also to kind of keep the original material intact. And I gave myself the harder part because I wanted to be a little bit easier on Philippe. But I don't think Philippe had a great time. but then again, the end result was, in my opinion, great. Like, I think we had a ton of fun playing it. The fact that we put a lot of work in it, it paid off. And I think the audience also kind of appreciated that difficulty, especially since we were playing to a percussionist crowd mostly, you know? So also, oftentimes, yeah, know your audience. When it comes to, for instance, the Beethoven adaptations that I made, when I initially started doing them, besides just loving the music, one of the reasons was that nobody had really done Beethoven piano sonatas for solo marimba. So this was one of the ways that I felt like I could contribute to the field and also kind of push myself to like figure out new tools and techniques to play it. What I realized quite fast when playing it to normal audiences was that nobody understands how difficult it is to play a piano sonata on the marimba. Like, you will impress percussionists, you will probably impress some pianists, but for an audience, it is just music. And actually, I realized that something like Rhythmic Caprice or these more classic showcase pieces look more virtuosic because people like vertical movements much more than they like fast, small horizontal ones. But that kind of also created this understanding that what I'm doing with the Beethoven is firstly more of a passion project. And for percussionists, it means one thing. For other audiences, it means something completely different. So also be aware of who you are making this stuff for. Utmost foremost, it is music, and you should think about how to make the best possible arrangement you can.
All right.
Awesome, thank you. I think we're pretty much out of time if nobody else has any other questions. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back tomorrow. Tim, who's tomorrow?
So we've got Kai Strobel tomorrow, and I will be comparing tomorrow. So we'll see you same time, same place. I'm not quite sure who's playing tomorrow. We've got Burke, Jan, Jake, Andy, Danny, Noah, and Noah as well. So quite a few performances tomorrow. So that's great. So yeah, we'll catch everyone tomorrow night. Thanks, Megan. Thanks for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
Of course.